We want
Hello and welcome to this broadcast on BloombergQuint. We're talking about businesses which are liked by investors, which have seen a bit of a dip, but have seen a bit of a bounce back as well. You try and look at businesses which have got good return ratios, strong growth potential, and investors view these disruptive times as temporary setbacks. Well, one of them seems to be GMM Pfaudler. The stock corrected quite a bit. It has bounced back very, very strongly. Valuation still rich. Maybe it's a reflection of how viewers or investors perceive the business model to be like. Let's ask Tarak Patel, who joins in right now with his thoughts on how has the last one and a half month been, and how are they envisaging business to be like once normalcy returns. Tarak, good having you. Thanks for joining in. At the outset, before we talk about long-term growth projections, just wondering, you supply a fair degree of critical equipment, I believe, to the pharmaceutical sector and some of the other allied industries as well. Are your plants functioning normally or are they shut down? What's the kind of inquiries that you're getting? Can you give us some sense about how business is right now?
Hi, good morning, Neeraj. Thanks for having me. Firstly, I'd just like to wish everybody at your studio and your viewers, I hope everybody's safe and healthy at home. Let's talk a little bit about GMM Pfaudler now. So we've actually, started up a few weeks ago. We were actually shut down for about 2 weeks. But having said that, we got permission from the local authorities. We do fall under the essential goods and services because we end up supplying to pharmaceuticals. So we did get limited workers approved. We had about 40 workers coming into the factory. We were doing our glass lining of our glass line reactors, which is the core to our business. So that's something that has been going on for a few weeks now. So production has not completely stopped. And we are hoping that over the next couple of weeks, we can scale that up to maybe at least 50 to 70% capacity. Talking about the industries that we cater to, I believe that both pharmaceutical and chemicals are industries that are a bit, insulated from the current crisis. Both these industries we've been seeing over the past couple of weeks are still finalizing orders. They're still planning new projects. We've seen a flurry of activity in the pharmaceutical sector. We've had customers call us and ask for urgent deliveries of reactors, saying that they've got recent new orders from the U.S., from Europe, and they need to produce pharmaceutical and API drugs in a quick and expeditious manner. So they reached out to us to see if we can really help them with the delivery. Having said that, I also believe that the next few months, few quarters for the pharma industry is going to pan out quite nicely. I think I did speak about this when I was on your channel maybe a few months ago when I did say that pharma was a bit slow and we expect a revival in pharma. I think that will come about much faster than expected. I think Pharma City, which is also coming up in Hyderabad, is something to look forward to. But I think a lot of the pharmaceutical companies will now look at manufacturing a lot of the intermediates themselves. They were heavily dependent on China. And with the current crisis in China and the supply chain, the disruptions, I think the Indian companies will have to set up their own manufacturing capacities here in India.
Okay, so there's a lot of moving parts there. Tell us, what you are operating at X capacity post the lockdown. It will probably go up to normalcy. What about the business climate, the industries that you're catering to, pharma, chemicals, some of the others? Would you reckon that you might actually see increased demand from those industries? Would you change your business metrics because of the opportunities versus the scale downs in some of the other industries?
Yeah, so over the last couple of weeks, I've been speaking to pharmaceutical companies. I've been speaking to chemical companies. I've been speaking to owners, CEO. I've also been speaking to equipment manufacturers, and everybody's talking about scaling up, right? So I think that going forward, I think the business is going to pick up. For us, luckily, we've already planned a bit of investment. We have 2 new gas furnaces coming up in June, July. As of now, they are on schedule. We buy these furnaces, gas furnaces from Japan, and until now, there's no, change in the schedule. So that's something that we look forward to. We also have plans of setting up a second facility in Hyderabad. We've been planning for quite some time to be closer to the customers in Hyderabad and in Vizag. And before this crisis started, we were actually quite close to finalizing a land parcel in Hyderabad and quickly setting up a new facility. That's something that's still on top priority for us. That's something that we want to do. But yes, all in all, I strongly believe that both chemical and pharmaceutical, and in chemical, especially the agrochemical space, will see more investment. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, that people have been finalizing. Our good customers, our key customers, our big customers are finalizing new orders. They're finalizing large new projects. So people are not slowing down because of the coronavirus crisis.
Tarak, good morning. Just want your sense as to how the entire topography is changing in terms of U.S. now de-risking itself towards a China exposure. Now we would most likely see a lot more interest coming for pharmaceuticals as well as specialty chemicals to the Indian shores. Much of the China exposure will start to digress and come towards markets like India. In light of that, do you see a significant jump in overall demand from these sectors and therefore the need for you to scale up at a faster pace?
Right. I would expect that to happen in the next 6 months to a year. I think India has gained some brand equity when we reopened our exports of, APIs, especially hydrochloroquine. So I think that sent a good signal around the world. I also believe that, as you rightly mentioned, people will look at alternatives to China. I think some of this production will also move back to the Europe and U.S. because I think they were also heavily dependent on both India and China, so they would like to probably build some local capacities as well. But yes, there's definitely going to be a new world order. There's going to be, new countries and new the partnerships that will, take place after this crisis is over. I think India will definitely gain. I think we've already a large supplier of generics around the world. We are also one of the larger manufacturers of vaccines as well. But I think going forward, I think the India story for pharmaceutical is definitely strong. Yes, I think for people like us who supply into these industries, we will definitely probably need to scale up with both chemical. And when I say chemical, I talk about specialty chemical and agrochemical already booming. We've already seen a shift of manufacturing from China because of pollution control norms and because of the clampdown that they have done. And plus with the API market booming and then also the dependence on intermediates coming from China, I think local manufacturing will have to invest in capacity, and that would directly lead to more business for somebody like us.
All right. So while the rest of the world seems to be pushing back CAPEX plans, at GMM Pfaudler, you feel that that's not going to be the case. You're going to still go on ahead, and you spoke about that land parcel. Is that going to be, are you going to be comfortably going to fund it through internal accruals, or then would you require fundraising to make sure that all your CAPEX plans are falling?
So right now, we are debt-free. We have cash on our balance sheet. So, these investments in Hyderabad is not something that is going to be difficult for us. I don't think we need to do any further leverage. Obviously, we all are hoping that the crisis ends as soon as possible and things return to normal. Obviously, most companies are looking at conserving cash right now, just making sure that they have safety and they have security. So that's, I think, the priority right now. But as soon as we see some light at the end of the tunnel, we would go back and close the Hyderabad facility as soon as possible. We already were speaking to the local, the government officials, the chief secretary, and they've been very welcoming for somebody like us. And they realize that, people like us need to come in there before Pharma City is opened and sanctioned, because once these pharma companies start setting up new facilities there, the suppliers for their key equipment need to be already there in advance and make sure that their facilities are up and running.
Okay, just want a sense from you. Now, for most companies, this phase of a lockdown also not just affects financials in Q4, but once they open up as well, they don't know whether demand is going to come back in. That's not going to be a problem for you. So you already know that there is a pipeline ready for you for big orders that are coming in. This period of a few weeks of a lockdown that you witnessed, that most likely, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, will not impact your earnings materially. And if at all, you'll actually be able to bounce back out of it at a much faster and in a much larger fashion. Right?
Yes, so that's what we are thinking. For the financial year that just ended, we've lost about maybe 10 days of production. We had equipment which was ready, but unfortunately, we couldn't ship it out in the last 10 days because of the lockdown. Hopefully, we expect maybe in the next 10 days to, probably increase our capacity by about 50% to 70%, and then, start manufacturing on a full-fledged capacity. But, in terms of guidance, we haven't really revised our guidance for this financial year. We think that with the equipment that's already lying ready, and if we get back into action in the next couple of weeks, we can still make the numbers that we had planned for this year. As you rightly mentioned, we already have a backlog, an order book of about 6 months. So we have safety in that front. We really only need to book orders now for, September onwards. So by then, by the time we reach that time frame, we would already have enough business to ship out. So I'm not seeing really a slowdown in terms of output. I just hope that things return to normal and we get all the local permissions to get our factory up and running as soon as possible.
Tarak, one final question. In your conversations with your customers, are there particular pockets of pharmaceuticals or chemicals which are talking about business running normal or better than estimated?
Right. So I think Hyderabad Pharma has definitely, been up and running for quite some time. Most of our customers there are running at full capacity. Most of these guys already have, large campuses. They have facilities to keep these workers inside and feed them and they accommodate them. So they've been quite successful in terms of running their plant at full capacity. Obviously, the Gujarat and Mumbai-based pharma companies have also started, but maybe not at the same scale. Some of these big chemical companies based in Gujarat have been producing for quite some time now. And I'm sure over the next couple of weeks, as they fall under critical and essential goods and services, more and more of these companies will get back to the full-fledged manufacturing.
Okay, Tarak, well, all the best. We hope that things turn out to be even better than the optimistic scenario that you're painting for GMM Pfaudler. Thanks so much for taking the time out and stay safe.
Thank you very much and stay safe. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
And viewers, thanks for tuning in to this broadcast on BloombergQuint.